Hey everyone, it's Lisa from the blog farmhouseonboone.com, and today I want to show you how to make some really pretty, very simple to make even if you're a new sewer, tie top curtains. And these are Pottery Barn inspired. I want to start this video off by saying that if you are brand new to sewing, I have an entire sewing course. It is free. It is on my website, farmhouseonboone.com. Click on Learn to Sew in the top navigation. It will bring you to a page where I have videos walking you through everything from threading the machine, creating a hem, a seam. You can learn how to sew these curtains along with any of the other projects on my blog with that series. So if you want to get started and learn how to sew this year, just start getting plugged into that course. It's self-paced. You can just stop by anytime and start taking the lessons. I love making things in my own home. As you know, it's one of my passions. And I love the drape and the flow of linen. I love the look of ties and ruffles. You'll see it all over my home. And I wanted to make some curtains for our living room. Started rearranging the living room. I'm gonna give you guys a full tour of our farmhouse living room, how it looks now. We've added a few things since the last time I took you in there, and I just thought some nice draped texture would be beautiful on the windows. And so I wanted to create some tie top curtains, but our ceilings are so tall that I could not actually even find the length I wanted online. I need 112 inches. But you can of course make these any size that you want. So for this project, you're gonna need linen fabric. I used the Robert Kaufman washer linen blend. I will link it in the description below. If you buy it on fabric.com, which is where I like to buy my fabric a lot of times, or Amazon, depending on the quantity, if you're needing several yards, so I had to order close to 16 yards to do the 4 panels in my living room, you can get a discount over there, and it ends up being like $7-ish per yard. So it actually ended up even being cheaper. A lot of times when you make things yourself, you're not necessarily saving money. In this case, I actually was able to get a ton of fabric for cheaper than making them. I will leave a link in the description below to the exact fabric that I bought. Now make sure to treat your linen however you're going to treat it later. So for example, if you want to wash and dry and iron your curtains later, do that before sewing, so that way you're not surprised with any shrinkage. I personally usually wash my linen on cold and hang it to dry, so that would be the procedure before sewing. So for curtains about 104 inches through 112 inches, you're gonna need 8 yards of fabric for 2 panels, so that would cover 1 window. For the tie portion, you'll need about 1 yard and then 3.5 per panel for reference. Now this whole post will be over on my blog as well, so if you want to head over there, save that on your Pinterest board to try out this project later, and you want to refer back to all the measurements and everything, it will be there as well as this video embedded. So on that fabric, cut out 24 pieces, 3.5 inches by 17 inches. Now these will be for the ties, so this will make 2 panels, 12 ties per curtain, which will be 6 pairs. Now when you're cutting out the ties, make sure to go off of the width of the fabric. You don't want to cut down one of the long sides because we're using the full 52-inch width for the width of the curtains. So we're going to cut from the bottom of the fabric, not from the sides. To see how long you'll want your panels, measure your windows. Now I like to go about 3 or 4 inches above my trim with my length of my curtains because I want them to frame out the windows and make them look larger. So I measure all the way from about 4 inches above all the way to the floor to get my 112-inch length. After that, cut out the main piece. Now here is the formula that I use, so you can figure out the length that you need if you don't need 112-inch curtains. Okay, so to get the length that you're gonna cut for your panels, take the length that you want, in my case 112, add 6 inches for the bottom hem, 1 inch for the top hem, and then subtract 3 inches, which is the length that the ties will add to the curtain length. So for me, I had 112 plus 6 plus 1, that's 119, minus 3 is 116. So I cut out 2 panels 116 inches in length. Now the key to this, because it's a little bit difficult to work with such long lengths of fabric, is to stand. That's what I find is the easiest. Take your measuring tape, go down the length, the side length of the fabric, and just pull until you get to 116. Then I like to make a little notch and then do the same thing on the other side and make a little notch on the other side. Then I fold it in half to make sure the notches line up to see if I went wrong somewhere. And then I just cut to connect the 2 notches. Now after you double checked your work a few times and made sure you have the exact length that you want, you can use that panel, lay it on top of the fabric to get your other one as a template. So it's really easy once you get that first one cut. All right, now that I have my 24 3.5 by 17 inch ties all cut out for my 2 curtain panels and my 2 panels 116 inches by 52 inches, it's time to start sewing. The first step is going to be to prepare the ties. To do that, I'm going to fold one edge of the tie under, and then I'm going to fold it in half lengthwise and sew down the long side, leaving the top and bottom open. Now I want to point out that the sewing machine I'm using is a very basic Brother machine. I've talked about this in other videos and I'll link it below. But if you want to get into a sewing hobby, you can with a new machine for about $80. Make sure to back and forward stitch at the beginning and the end. After that, I'm gonna turn it out with a safety pin so that I have the raw edges hidden inside. Just gonna take an iron and press it flat. Now making sure to put this side seam here over nicely on the side. And then I'm just gonna top stitch all the way around. Now a top stitch is just a stitch that goes closely around the edge of something just to look really nice and straight and add a little bit of extra durability. All right, you can see that I top stitched all the way down both long sides. I closed off the top that had been folded in, that's the finished edge. And then I left one edge unfinished because this is gonna get tucked in under the top hem of the curtain. Just repeat that for all the ties until you have all 24 finished off, and then we'll go on to preparing the main piece. Okay, now to prepare the main piece, first I'm gonna fold over the sides, the long sides, about a ½ inch and press it all the way down, and then another ½ inch and press. Now this is gonna create a nice edge with the raw edges hidden inside for the side hem. I'm gonna do this on both long sides and then prepare the top and bottom hems. For the bottom hem, I'm gonna make a nice large hem. So I'm gonna go up 3 inches and press it. Now I like adding long hems in curtains because it gives you a little wiggle room if you ever want to move these to a different room and you need more length, or if maybe something in the laundry changes a bit and somebody accidentally dries your curtains, you have some length to work with. Plus, it just looks nice, so that's always good. I had this happen once with IKEA curtains I purchased for our home, and then I washed them on cold. Actually, I think I washed them on hot. I hung them to dry, but the hot water already did the damage, and I had already cut and hemmed the curtains to the proper length they needed to be, and I had nothing to work with. Had I left 3 or 4 inches in the bottom, which if you take it out is 6 inches, you could take that hem out and fix the curtains. After you've gone all the way down 3 inches, fold it up another 3 to hide that raw edge inside. Now this is why earlier we added 6 inches to the total length to account for this large hem in the bottom. Okay, for the top hem, we're just gonna do a narrow 1/2 inch. We added 1 inch in length to account for this one. And I like this one nice and narrow because of tucking the ties underneath. Doesn't take as much length off the ties. Now once you've pressed all the way down 1/2 inch and another 1/2 inch, I'm gonna show you how to tuck the ties in before going to the sewing machine to sew all 4 of these edges down. All right, now I'm gonna place the ties underneath the top fold before hemming this down. Now the key to this, to get them evenly spaced, because it can be a little confusing to figure out, especially if you're working with different widths of fabric, is to first know that we are doing 6 sets of ties. So I start by putting 1 set on one top edge, all the way lined up with the edge, and then another set on the other side, flush with the outside edge again. And then what we have left is 4 sets of the 6. So that makes for 5 segments because of the way the spacing is. So basically what you want to do is measure from this end, so where this hits here, all the way over to the other side, where this one hits on this side, and then divide that by 5. So mine was 50 for this particular fabric. So I placed a tie set every 10 inches, middle to middle-ish. Now don't get too worked up about that, but as long as they are pretty evenly spaced, you should be good. I've got about 10 inches between each one, middle to middle, and that carried me all the way over so that I have them about every 10 inches, 6 sets, raw edges, tucked inside, and then the finished edges hanging down here. So I'll show you later how to turn these up so they go up. Okay, now that the ties are all placed in the top part, the side seams are pressed over a 1/2 inch and another 1/2 inch, and the bottom 3 inches twice, it's time to sew all the way around the outside of the curtain. Now I like to just get as close as possible to the bottom fold. So I always put my pieces upside down so that the bobbin thread's on top. That's not technically right, but that is what I always do, because then I can make sure that I don't miss the hem at all. Again, if you're brand new to sewing, visit my How to Sew a Hem in the Simple Sewing series. We're basically just sewing a hem around all 4 sides of this, making sure to catch the 12 ties or 6 tie sets in the top. All right, well now that we've gone all the way around the curtain, sewed all the hems down, you'll notice that the tabs on the top are sort of facing down. So the one last step is to pull them toward the top and then do a little top stitch just to keep them in place. Now there is another option. If you don't want to tuck the ties in the top, you could also just serge the raw edges if you have a serger and just sew them straight on facing up versus tucking them underneath and then pulling them up. Either way works. You'll have a little bit more length if you do it the second way. And the last step is to hang and enjoy your curtains. All right, well, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, if you are brand new to sewing, make sure to go on over to farmhouseonboone.com/learn-to-sew. You can just click it in the top navigation, farmhouseonboone.com, click on Learn to Sew. You will learn everything that you need to go from knowing nothing about sewing to sewing all kinds of projects for your home. I have a very big list of sewing projects on that page as well that you can start trying. I have pillows, aprons, slip covers, dresses, so many things that you can start trying one by one for your home. If you're brand new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I make 2 new videos every week on food from scratch, natural living, and a handmade home. Thank you so much for stopping by the farmhouse.